Absolute madness in the Virginia election that's 4 weeks from tomorrow. We've got the violent rhetoric back, and once again, it's coming from the left. The guy who wants to be attorney general fantasizing about putting bullets in the heads of Republican opponents. And let's take a listen to the Democrats disavowing and decrying that kind of thing and withdrawing their endorsement of him. Let's listen. Listen carefully. Yeah, didn't happen. We're going to show you every bit of what's coming down in Virginia. Plus, speaking of violent rhetoric, Chicago looks like an armed insurrection right now as people are rising up against federal law enforcement, and Chicago police were ordered by Democrats to stand down and let their brothers and sisters wearing the badge be sitting ducks. We're going to play the audio of the dispatch that said, yeah, stand down. They're on their own. No support, no help, cop on cop. Unbelievable. We're going to show that to you coming up in a second. And CNN absolutely shuts down Mike Johnson while he's in the middle of trying to explain the facts about the government shutdown and how Democrats want health care for illegal immigrants. But he had the last word, along with your Vice President, J.D. Vance. Really important facts and information about the government shutdown and about health care in America. And we're going to deliver it for you because you don't get it anywhere else. We are back, and we're happy to be here. We're also brought to you by the Dragon's Prophecy. My name's Larry O'Connor, and you can call me Larry. Sir, back after a couple of days off. Thank you for being here and jumping on board for this Monday edition of our program. We promise we're not going to let you down. Why don't you give us some likes right now so we can boost this episode up into the platform that you're watching us on. And please don't forget to subscribe and get us into your regular rotation so you don't miss a show. Super important so that we can continue to grow our community, our family here that we spend every single day with. And if you're watching us after the fact on demand, come and join us live. The chat is phenomenal. They're the greatest. And it's a growing group on our live chat. So make sure you do that, please. Hey, did you catch my interview with Dinesh D'Souza last week where we talked about his brand new film that's debuting today? I implore you to check that out. It's really kind of gone mini viral there, that interview, because he really breaks down what his new film, The Dragon's Prophecy, is all about. And I just want to tell you, Dinesh has done it again. This eye-opening movie illuminates a 3,000-year-old mystery about Israel, the dark resurrection, and the end days. There's a whole lot of scriptural basis for what's happening right now. The nation of Israel is a resurrected nation. But what if there was going to be a resurrection of another people, the enemy of Israel? You've heard about the Philistines in the Old Testament, right? Well, that sounds vaguely familiar to today's headlines, doesn't it? After the horrific attack on October 7th that we're going to recognize tomorrow on its 2-year anniversary, The Dragon's Prophecy offers new understanding on Israel, radical Islam, anti-Semitism, and biblical prophecy. Could it be that the fate of the world, of all humanity itself, is tied to what we're seeing in the Middle East? Based on the #1 international bestseller by Jonathan Cahn, The Dragon's Prophecy reveals how another realm could be transforming our world as we speak. Please don't miss Dinesh D'Souza's new movie, The Dragon Prophecy. Now, it's only in theaters on October 8th. Get last-minute tickets at thedragonprophecyfilm.com and streaming and DVD on Salem Now starting October 9th. Thank you for that. In Virginia, there's a statewide election 4 weeks from tomorrow for governor, for lieutenant governor, and for attorney general. You know, attorney general, the person who's in charge of enforcing the law in all of our states, the top law enforcement official in a state. And there's a Democrat nominee, Jay Jones. He's challenging the incumbent, Jason Miyares. And let's just say, Jay Jones's campaign is disintegrating before our very eyes. The question is, how many Democrats will he drag down with him? If this morning's Morning Joe is any indication, it's looking bad for the Dems. When you've lost to Joe and Mika, well, take a look.
Coming up, an attorney general candidate in Virginia is apologizing for his texts about a state lawmaker. We'll go through what the messages said.
Probably be forced to withdraw from the race, and probably is doing a lot there.
All right, Morning Joe will be right back.
Okay, well, you lost Joe, certainly. Mika didn't seem real thrilled with hubby saying, yeah, he should probably drop out of the race. Of course, there have been no calls from any Democrat anywhere in the country for him to drop out of the race. In fact, he hasn't lost one single endorsement from one Democrat at all. What did he do? Well, I'll show you in a sec. But first, here's how the conversation on Morning Joe ensued.
For text messages, horrible. I didn't want to read them out loud. I'm wondering how the text messages
deeply disturbing messages that have been swiftly condemned across the political aisle. The Republicans have tried to tie this to the Congresswoman Spanberger, the gubernatorial candidate. She did very quickly denounce them. But it's unclear whether this attorney general candidate will stay in the race. I think there's a growing sense that he probably should not. We heard President Trump last night, but even some Democratic leaders, John Hyman, have started to say, like, look, this is inappropriate. You can't, and especially at a time right now with such concern about violent rhetoric and political violence.
Who says that?
Yeah, that this is just way beyond the line.
I would say, not to be too much on the high horse. It's wildly inappropriate under any circumstances today, tomorrow, 10 years ago, 6 months ago. I think the pressure is going to be on Spanberger and for the party to ask this candidate to just quit the race, because just both, it's the right thing. And also the political splashback. You don't want to mess with this right now.
Who says that?
I think the right thing to do is basically this guy should do everyone a favor and step out of the race.
Yeah. So you've lost Morning Joe. You've lost all of the lefties whose job really it is on that program to do whatever they can to drag down and destroy Republicans and conservatives and Trump and you and elevate Democrats. And you've lost them. That's bad. But did you notice one part of this reporting? This is a news program where they deliver news to their viewers. Did you notice one part of the reporting that was missing? The actual text messages that are in question here. The actual content. Oh, it's terrible. I don't even want to say it. I don't even want to repeat it. You're the news. Why don't you want people to hear it? Why don't you want people to say it? Well, we'll show you. Here's one text message. And by the way, what's being lost in a lot of the reporting of this story is the context of Jay Jones, a former state delegate in Virginia. What inspired him to say these things? I'll tell you what the context was. It actually makes it even more despicable. On the left is Jay Jones. On the right is a former colleague in the House of Delegates, a Republican. They say nice things about everyone, LOL. If those guys die before me, I will go to their funerals to piss on their graves, send them out awash in something. Then the person replies in a scolding way, Jay Jones. Jay then follows up, 3 people, 2 bullets. Gilbert is the Republican Speaker of the House in Richmond back in 2022 when these text messages took place. Gilbert, Hitler, and Pol Pot. Gilbert gets 2 bullets to the head. Spoiler, put Gilbert in the crew with 2 of the worst people you know, and he receives both bullets every time. The Republican replies, Jay, please stop. He then tries to make a joke out of it. LOL, okay. It really bothers me when you talk about hurting people or wishing death on them, which, by the way, suggests that he does this often. Right? Do you notice? She says, it bothers me when you do this. In other words, you've done this before. So what's the context here? Because I've heard a lot of commentary. Well, listen, he was frustrated about Republicans and their policies and their stances. And he was frustrated that he thinks they're hypocrites about gun violence and about Second Amendment and things like that. No. Take a look at the first line again. They say nice things about everyone. If those guys die before me, I will go to their funerals to piss on their graves. Why is he talking about a funeral? This is why. Because they had just returned from the funeral of a long-serving state delegate in Virginia, a Democrat who served 12 terms in Southwest Virginia, the red conservative part of Virginia. But that part of Virginia kept electing a Democrat to represent them because he was a moderate conservative Democrat. And Todd Gilbert, the Speaker of the House, a Republican, gave a eulogy at his funeral, and Jay Jones decided that was good reason to talk about putting 2 bullets in his brain. So it's worse than what you're probably hearing at all as to how this story is being reported. All you're hearing is the text message. But when you find out that what inspired these despicable, hateful, violent text messages from the guy who wants to be Attorney General of Virginia, what inspired it, what really drove him over the edge, was that a Republican eulogized a Democrat at his funeral. You know, the whole unifying, crossing party lines, let's overlook what we disagree about and come together to try to show some decency to each other in politics. An actual moment like that is what brought out the evil in this man. No wonder Mika didn't want to talk about it this morning. There's more. I point blank asked you more than 3 times and you dug in and you meant it. I'm honestly questioning a lot today. He said, I mean, do I think Todd and Jennifer are evil? Jennifer's the wife of Todd Gilbert. And they're breeding little fascists? Yes. Oh, yeah, let's bring the children into it. You weren't simply asking questions and you know it. I genuinely loved. I wasn't attacking you. I was trying to understand your logic. Understand this guy keeps doubling down and tripling down and saying, no, I'm serious. Todd Gilbert deserves to be murdered. You weren't trying to understand. You were talking about hoping Jennifer Gilbert's children would die. And he says, yes, I've told you this before. Only when people feel pain personally do they move on policy. This is all the discussion that's happening after attending a funeral and after hearing Todd Gilbert give the eulogy. That's Jay Jones. And by the way, through the weekend, the political fallout was so monumental that he had to drag himself to a local ABC station to try to give a rehearsed, market-tested apology of sorts. Watch him. This is Jay Jones, the guy on the right.
You're asking Virginians to vote for a man who compared his political opponents to mass murderers. Isn't that type of rhetoric disqualifying for someone who's seeking statewide office here in Virginia?
Well, the rhetoric has no place on our landscape, no place in our discourse. And again, for that, I am deeply, deeply sorry. I should have never done it. It's very embarrassing to me, and certainly I regret it.
The National Review's article, which came out today, says after those text messages were sent to Carrie Coyner, you picked up the phone and called her. You said, according to the article, I'm quoting, Gilbert's wife could watch her own child die in her arms so that Gilbert might reconsider his political views. Did you say that?
Bottom line is that the language is unacceptable. And again, I deeply, deeply, deeply wish that it hadn't happened. I have spent the entire day.
I'm sorry. Okay, first of all, he didn't answer the question as you saw. Did you say that? The language is unacceptable. But then did you catch this?
Consider his political views. Did you say that?
Bottom line is that the language is unacceptable. And again, I deeply, deeply, deeply wish that it hadn't happened.
I wish that it hadn't happened. What's this third-party removal, passive-aggressive? Oh, this is a terrible thing that happened. What do you mean it happened? You did it, dude. I'm sorry it happened. No, I think what you meant to say is, I'm sorry I did it. You did it. This isn't something that's happened to you. It's something that you did to other people. How do they get away with this? This was some sort of memorized, just stay on message, Jay. You're going to push through this. Trust me, Trump will tweet something that'll distract everything. And then you can say, aha, see, Trump does things. And so it's okay that I did this. This is embarrassing. It's despicable. And he might get away with it.
I have spent the entire day really regretting all of it. I certainly wish that it hadn't happened. I'm sick to my stomach when I read those words. And certainly they're objectionable. They're abhorrent. They have no place in Virginia, no place in this country's discourse. And so, again, I am so deeply.
Yeah. Deeply. He's deeply sorry. Did you catch that part of it? He regrets that it happened. So that's his third apology, by the way. His first one on camera. But it was his third go-around because he just wasn't getting it right. And frankly, I think that was pretty pathetic too. But you've got to see his first apology. When the story first broke Friday afternoon, this was his apology. Like all people, I've sent text messages that I regret. Hold on. I mean, it's true. We've all sent text messages that we regret. I sent one to an old girlfriend one time after I had way too much Chardonnay one night. Boy, oh boy, I wish I could have those back. She's a Pilates instructor now, by the way. Anyway, yes, we all send text messages that we regret. But I'll tell you something. I've never sent a text message about putting bullets in my political opponent's brains. Who among us, everybody? Come on, right? Am I right? Who among... Dude, you're alone over there with that one. Schlichter, maybe. But the rest of us know. Like all people, I've sent text messages that I regret. Violent rhetoric has no place in our politics. That's it. He then pivots immediately and goes on attack. A fake, fraudulent, deceptive attack. Let's be clear about what's happening in the Attorney General race right now. Jason Miyares is dropping smears through Trump-controlled media organizations to assault my character and rescue his desperate campaign. Can I pause for a moment here? Trump-controlled media organizations. Guess who broke this story? Anyone? Anyone? National Review. National Review, a Trump-controlled media organization. National Review famously had an entire issue of their magazine called Never Trump, and they stand by it. Have you read half of National Review? There are a couple good writers there who get it, who know what time it is, but mostly National Review is far from being a Trump control. Honestly, he should drop out of the race just for being ignorant. This is a strategy that ensures Jason Miyares will continue to be accountable to Donald Trump, not the people of Virginia. So he tried to make this whole thing about Trump. I can't believe Trump made me tweet that text message, that send those text messages. All right, let's move on from this schmuck. Winsome Earl Sears, running for governor, immediately created an ad on this, tying her opponent, Abigail Spanberger, lion, deceitful, left-wing, radical Abigail Spanberger, to Jay Jones. Take a look at this.
We start with breaking news from the campaign trail.
Jay Jones is under fire tonight. Jay Jones is under fire.
Jay Jones is under fire after messages he sent in 2022 saying former Virginia House Speaker Todd Gilbert should be shot.
I'm excited about this ticket.
It's been great to be out on the campaign trail with Jay Jones.
You said Gilbert's wife could watch her own child die in her arms so that Gilbert might reconsider his political views.
We deserve an attorney general who will stand up for the people of Virginia.
Jones said, quote, Gilbert, Hitler, and Pol Pot. Gilbert gets 2 bullets to the head.
Let your rage fuel you.
Jones doubled down, saying, quote, do I think Todd and Jennifer are evil and that they're breeding little fascists? Yes.
How can Virginians trust a man who said something so horrific, so callously?
Only when people feel pain personally do they move on policy.
That's a great ad. Good for Winsome Sears. And just understand something here. It's absolutely disqualifying to be attorney general, let alone any other elected official in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Imagine if he becomes attorney general and his office does some kind of investigation and arrests a Republican of any kind. I mean, not even an elected official or just some guy, some random dude who, you know, defaulted on his taxes or something, but he happens to be a Republican. All that guy has to do is go to the judge and say, Your Honor, this attorney general has a malicious, biased, prejudiced predisposition against Republicans. I'm being persecuted because of my political affiliation by the state of Virginia. Just take a look at what he said about Republicans. I sort of undermines his ability, doesn't it? Winsome Sears continued on this vein. Here she is, the woman who would be governor. She is the Republican nominee.
The calls for hate and violence are coming from the mouths of the Democrat Party's leaders. And Jay Jones is just the most recent, and his wish for violent acts the most clear. So if you can't solve a problem, you can't name it, but I will. And here and now, the leadership of the Democrat Party has become consumed with hate.
I mean, Abigail Spanberger is literally using the phrase, let your rage. Oh, shoot. What is it? Let your rage. Hang on. It was in
fuel
the ad.
Fuel
what is
you.
it?
Let your rage fuel
you. Thank you. Hang on. Here it is.
Let your rage fuel you.
That's part of her stump speech right now. As she travels around Virginia trying to get votes from Democrats. She's saying, let your rage fuel you. 3 weeks after the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Let your rage fuel you. Oh, she's such a moderate. Look at her in her Talbot's pantsuit with her hand on her hip. She's just a suburban mom. She's a radical. Let your rage fuel you, she says. By the way, Winsome Sears, the current lieutenant governor of Virginia that you see here, if you listen to the media and Democrats in this country, Virginians who are voting for this woman right here are called racist. Now, if you vote for this woman, oh, then you're pure and pristine. You're totally racially tolerant. If you vote for the blonde, pasty-skinned white woman, that proves that you're down with the cause and you're woke. But if you vote for the first-generation Jamaican immigrant, retired Marine, you're racist. That's the world of the Democrats right now in America, circa 2025. She's the lieutenant governor to one of the most popular governors in America, Glenn Youngkin. Here was Youngkin talking up his candidate and talking about Jay Jones this weekend.
This is demented. And here we have the Democrat candidate running for attorney general, the top cop in Virginia, wishing not only that he had 2 bullets to put in a guy's head, but then he wishes death on his children. And Todd Gilbert has small kids. And for Jay Jones to wish death on his small children is beyond belief. But that is where the violent left of the Democrat Party is. This is where these folks are. You know, we had Charlie Kirk assassinated, and so many folks celebrated in the far left. We've had two Democrats threaten to murder 2 of our delegates running for office in Virginia. And now Jay Jones comes out and says that he has 2 bullets for Todd Gilbert's head and wants to see his children die. I mean, this is unbelievable. And what's shocking also is that after calling for the normal apology, the Democrat candidates, Abigail Spanberger and the rest of them, were out campaigning this weekend like it was nothing. They have got to call for this guy to resign, step down, get out of this race in disgrace, because this is beyond disqualifying. I mean, they're asking people to vote for this guy to be the attorney general of the Commonwealth of Virginia. Meanwhile, we have the best attorney general, Jason Miyares, in the nation, and everyone in Virginia should step forward, rehire Jason Miyares, and demonstrate that Virginia stands for the values that not just hold our country together, but we reject all political violence, and we reject anyone that would call for violence on a child. It's unbelievable. Winsome Sears immediately came out and condemned this, and Abigail Spanberger gave the normal, oh, it was wrong, and then's back out campaigning with the Democrats calling for this guy to win. This is nuts. And this is why the Democrat Party has lost touch with where America is today.
Yeah, good job, Glenn Youngkin. A little bit more on this, by the way, and he rightly actually pivoted to Abigail Spanberger. Before I show you that, did you notice, if you watched any news this weekend in between some brilliant football games, did you notice that this was barely discussed? I mean, if a Republican had said this about a Democrat at a statewide race, by the way, not just any statewide race, there are only 2 statewide elections going on right now, New Jersey and Virginia. We're 4 weeks out. We're 1 year after the presidential election. These 2 races every 4 years always get a lot of attention because it's said to be a referendum on where things stand politically nationwide on who is in the White House at this given moment, right? That's always the case in the Virginia and New Jersey races, number one. But number two, every single Republican who appeared on one of the weekend shows would demand, Meet the Press, Kristen Welker, Margaret Brennan on Face the Nation, George Snuffleupagus, they would demand that every single Republican disavow and condemn what your colleague running for attorney general in Virginia just said. Do you stand by that, or do you condemn that kind of language? And do you call on them to... This is how the game is played. Jake Tapper's done this for decades now. You find some wackadoodle Republican running for dog catcher in Podunk, Arkansas, who says something stupid or posts something crazy about Obama on his Facebook page, and suddenly it's a national story for 3 days, and every single Republican in Washington, D.C. has got to distance themselves, disavow themselves, burn every picture they have of them standing at some campaign fundraising event. Everybody's associated with it. But this thing, they pretend like it never happened. They're ignoring it. It doesn't even come up. But Youngkin did the right thing. This isn't just about every other Democrat in the country. It's about one in particular. The woman who wants to lead Virginia, the woman who actually wants to be the leader and stand up on principles and values. She hasn't even said anything on camera. She put out a 2-sentence statement on social media and then just disappeared. And Youngkin reminds you all of that.
Seems to be the problem.
Well, at the end of the day, Abigail Spanberger wants there to be boys in girls' bathrooms and wants boys to be in girls' sports. And that's where she stands. And the reason why she cannot answer the question is because she knows where she is so objectionable to almost all Virginians. And therefore, she refuses to answer the question. The reality is that having men in girls' bathrooms and having biological males in girls' sports is unsafe, it's wrong, and it violates the dignity of women and girls. And that's what Virginians believe, and that's why she won't answer the question. Listen, this race is really clear. Last week, Trafalgar, who I believe is the best pollster in America, came out and said this race was now down to 5 points. It's tightened up hugely in the course of the last month because of the reality that people understand that Abigail Spanberger is a liberal left Democrat who doesn't believe anything that's consistent with Virginia values. And that's why this race is tightened up. On top of that, now we see that members of her ticket, Jay Jones, a member of Abigail Spanberger's ticket, literally wishes death on children. This is the race at hand. And this is why I believe Virginians will come together and stand for the values that we hold dear. Get out and vote. Go to winsomeforgovernor.com, vote for Jason Miyares, and let's win this thing, folks, because Virginians need to stand for what's right. And we've demonstrated it from the beginning of this country, and we're going to do it again right now.
Yeah, and listen, Glenn Youngkin knows about this because 4 years ago, he was behind Terry McAuliffe. Everybody wrote him off. Everybody said Terry McAuliffe was going to win and he's going to be governor again. He outspent Glenn Youngkin. He had the media on his side. He was going to steamroll. And right around now, about 4 years ago, right around now, 4 weeks out from the election, suddenly the polls started tightening and Youngkin was down by about 3 points. 4 points. Now, it was a different dynamic then because Biden had just won the White House. And so there's this weird thing in Virginia with whoever's in the White House, the other party has an upper edge. So Spanberger has the upper leg right now. But Youngkin knows how Virginia goes. And the momentum is with Winsome Sears. But you got to keep the pressure on right now. You got to keep the pressure on this race. President Trump took notice of this, and he posted on Truth Social. It's just come out that the radical left lunatic Jay Jones, who's running against Jason Miyares, the great attorney general in Virginia, made sick and demented jokes, if they were jokes at all, which were not funny, and that he wrote down and sent around to people concerning the murdering of a Republican legislator, his wife, and their children. Abigail Spanberger, who's running for governor, is weak and ineffective and refuses to acknowledge what this lunatic has done. Even Democrats are saying it is resignation from campaign territory. Democrat Jay Jones should drop out of the race immediately, and the people of Virginia must continue to have a great attorney general in Jason Miyares, who, by the way, has my complete and total endorsement. Jason will never let you down. Do you know why Jay Jones is not dropping out? Do you know why Democrats are imploring him to stay in the race? I will tell you why. It's not because they want him to win or they think he's done. He's toast. It's over. One problem in Virginia is they have this ridiculous early voting. People have been voting since like September 14th. It's ridiculous. So think about all those people who voted before this news came out, right? But still, it's over. The polls were already within like 3 points, I think, or 2 points. It was tightening, margin of error time. He's history. And he can't really campaign now anymore. He can't go anywhere. He's got to keep his head down. Anywhere he goes, he's going to get inundated by the media. He's going to get inundated by hecklers and crowd. It's good. Jay Jones is going to go back in the basement. He's going to hide. It's over for him. The reason Democrats are imploring him not to drop out of the race is because that would be such a huge story that the media can't ignore it. You're 4 weeks out from an election in Virginia, and the attorney general, the Democrat, has to drop out of the race and withdraw his campaign. That's worldwide news in some cases, especially the reasons behind it. And at that point, it will get so much attention because right now this happened on a Friday in October during football season. Believe it or not everybody knows this story. Not everyone in Virginia knows this story. If you're not on social media and you're not watching cable news, which a lot of people aren't, it's off the radar. The second Jay Jones drops out, it explodes. And the media can't justify ignoring it anymore. And that will then drag down Spanberger and the lunatic who's running for lieutenant governor in Virginia as well. That's why they're imploring him to stand. But I don't know if he can continue. The pressure is on right now. And yes, losing Joe and Mika is not a good thing for him. Well, one more real fast. I just want to show you where things are in the Democrat Party right now in Virginia, because here's the funny thing about Jay Jones, this guy who's been texting the murder fantasies about his Republican opponents. Last week, it was revealed that he was arrested for doing 116 miles an hour on a state highway. And the judge gave him a sentence of 1,000 hours community service. He only did 500 hours of the community service. But this is the same guy. This is a guy who wants to be attorney general, doing 116 miles an hour on a state highway. He gets 1,000 hours community service. He does 500, but the 500 hours of community service were to his political action committee. Literally self-serving. Not for a church, not for a food bank, not for disabled children in the hospital. He did 500 hours community service to his own political action committee. This is who the Democrats are. This is where we are in Virginia right now with this party. And you don't hear any top Democrat elected official calling on this guy to withdraw from the race, or for that matter, even withdrawing their endorsement. I mean, you would think one Democrat would say, listen, I don't like this. He has to make his own decision about whether he's going to withdraw from the race, but I am no longer endorsing him for attorney general. I'm staying out of the race. Not one Democrat could bring themselves to do that. What does that tell you? Well, I'll show you what it tells you. Here is the current Speaker of the House of Delegates in Virginia yesterday at the pulpit of a church.
So we need to understand something. We have to be mature in our thinking and how we vote. We can't get distracted because they want us to get distracted by the text message here or something else. Stay focused.
Don't be distracted by the text message. Stay focused. Just take a look at that letter after his name. That's all that matters. Don't get distracted by text messages. Could I please have the last 10 years of mean tweet complaints back in my life again, please? I have wasted we've all had our life wasted and distracted for 10 years about people complaining and wringing their hands and lighting their hair on fire over mean tweets from Donald Trump. It's unpresidential. It's unprecedented. It's unworthy. He's outrageous. I can't believe he tweeted those things. This guy called for the murder of a political opponent, wanted to put 2 bullets in his head. And we're told, oh, don't get distracted by that. Don't get distracted by that. As my friend Chris Plant said, were it not for double standards, Democrats would have no standards at all. And it goes right along with the media. That said, Joe and Mika, broken clock is right twice a day. And Jay Jones and the Democrats in Virginia, they're sweating it right now because today they lost Joe and Mika. Coming up, we're going to show you the latest on the government shutdown and how the media is trying to keep you from learning the truth about illegal aliens getting health insurance. We'll show you that coming up in just a second. But first, I want to be blunt with you. Listen up. Gold is up around 40% this year. And that's not speculation. I'm giving you facts. That's reality. If a portion of your savings isn't diversified into gold, you may be missing the boat. And the facts are inflation is still too high. The U.S. dollar is still too weak. The government debt is still increasing. That's why central banks are flocking to gold. They're the ones driving prices up to record highs right now, but it's not too late to buy gold from Birch Gold Group and get in the door now. Birch Gold will help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in gold. You don't pay a dime out of pocket. Just text my name, Larry, to 989898. Claim your free info kit. There's no obligation, just useful information. Gold has historically been used as a safe haven for millennia. What else can say that? Anything? No. Maybe bourbon, but not as safe as gold. Text Larry to 989898 right now. Claim your free info kit on gold. That's Larry to 989898. Protect your future today with Birch Gold. Thank you very much for your attention to this matter. Kevin, stand by. Distract everybody. I got to set one other thing up for this segment that I hadn't set up. Hang on.
Should I just do a little song and dance?
Yeah, tell him a joke. Tell him a joke.
A joke.
Or turn your camera on. That'll really get people excited, right?
I don't want to steal your thunder here, Larry. Our viewership would double if I put my face on screen.
That's true. You know what? I'd be okay with that. I got almost ready. Almost ready. Who here wants Kevin to put his camera on? Who's with me? All right. I guess that's that. All right. I think we got it. Here we go. All right. This weekend, the conversation continued in Washington, D.C. about the so-called government shutdown. We're now in week 2 of the shutdown, although it really doesn't become an issue until the next round of paychecks have to get distributed and the checks don't show up. Then you'll see the stories. Then you'll see a lot of pain right now. As of now, the only huge ramification from the government shutdown is that at the Navy Air Force football game in Annapolis this weekend, there wasn't a flyover, which was sad, actually, because we do pretty good flyovers there at the Naval Academy. Other than that, for the most part, things are going okay. It'll be next week when the next round of paychecks have to come out. Then you're going to see the rubber hit the road. That said, the debate is engaged right now, and you've got 2 major talking points. The Republicans are saying, let's just keep the government open. If you want to negotiate things about Obamacare or healthcare or whatever, we'll do that, but there's no reason to shut down the government for it. And Democrats are, Republicans are trying to starve children and have them die in hospital rooms without a doctor's appointment. Republicans counter that by saying, yeah, well, all the money that you're asking for is going to go to illegal immigrants, and that shouldn't be the case. And Democrats say it's against the law to give health care to illegal immigrants, just like it's against the law for illegal immigrants to cross the border or to stay in the country and work without proper identification. And well, somehow those things keep happening, but we're meant to believe from the Democrats that they're not getting any health care. Well, Speaker Mike Johnson has been a pretty effective communicator on this issue, and he's been having press conferences explaining, no, here's what's really happening. Here's what the Democrats are doing with regard to funding health care for illegal immigrants. And look what happened on CNN when he was making that case. Watch what happens.
The Working Families Tax Code included a huge provision. A big chunk of that bill was the health provisions. Now, why are we saying that they want to restore taxpayer-funded benefits to illegal aliens? Because that's exactly what they did. When they rejected the clean CR that we sent over, the Senate Democrats.
All right, we're listening here to Speaker Johnson. He's trying to frame the shutdown as a Democratic shutdown. He also falsely claimed that Democrats want to give extend health care to illegal immigrants. That is not true. Illegal immigrants are not eligible for federal health care programs.
Wow. That I don't know what that is, but that's not news. That is not a news organization. That is like Baghdad Bob level propaganda right there. You don't let your viewers hear directly from the news source, number one. You cut away mid-sentence. This is the Speaker of the House of Representatives, and you're ostensibly covering the latest developments in the government shutdown, and you cut away from his press conference because you don't like what he's saying. And then, did you notice what she said here? This is astounding.
When they rejected the clean CR that we sent over, the Senate Democrats.
All right, we're listening here to Speaker Johnson. He's trying to frame the shutdown as a Democratic shutdown. He also
He's trying to frame the shutdown as a Democrat shutdown. Let's just be clear here. This is a Democrat shutdown. The Democrats are even admitting it. I mean, they're even saying it's a Democrat shutdown. So I don't know why CNN's like, wow, he's trying to frame this. The Republicans have not shut down the government. The Republicans knew that the spending was done on September 30th. They had a bill for a continuing resolution that would continue spending at Biden era levels. They voted for it. They passed it. Democrats have rejected it. Democrats have voted to shut the government down. That's just a fact. He's trying to frame it this way. But then listen again.
Claim that Democrats want to give health care, extend health care to illegal immigrants. That is not true.
That is not true, she says. He says that Democrats are trying to give health care to illegal immigrants. That is not true. Okay. Well, you know what? We've got more information here that we're going to give you, more facts, more data on this issue, and then you can decide. I like letting you decide. I like you hearing all the information, getting through the noise, getting through the spin. I'm not going to be like CNN. I'm not going to say, well, that's just not true, and then move on. No. Give me some facts. Give me some data. Okay, here's some facts. Here's some data. Oh, first of all, this is my favorite part. On CNN, and thank you to Joe Concha for finding this, by the way, my buddy over at Fox News. Look at this. Look at the chyron on CNN. Vance claims Democrats want health care for undocumented immigrants. And at the same time, as that chyron is there, and you just saw the anchor on CNN say it's not true that Democrats want to give health care to illegal immigrants, they actually show you the section from their bill that they submitted, what they wanted voted on to open the government. Repeal of health subtitle changes. It repeals subtitle B, or the health title of the Title VII of the Act, titled An Act to Provide for Reconciliation pursuant to Title II of H, Resolution 14. What is that? The repeal of the health subtitle changes? That repeals specifically, say it with me, the prohibition against government money going for health care for illegal immigrants. It's specifically reimbursements to hospitals who were treating illegal immigrants. That, in addition to states like California, who proudly proclaimed that they were giving health care to illegal immigrants and then claiming that they weren't using any federal tax dollars for it. But of course, that's a lie, because they get federal tax dollars for Medicaid, and then federal tax dollars goes to fund the state Medicaid system, and the state Medicaid system is giving health care to illegal immigrants. Money's fungible. It's not like, oh, this money will not be allowed to be used for that sort of thing. It's going into the Medicaid fund. Don't worry about it. But it's not the same money that we're going to use to pay for the health care for illegal immigrants. No, it doesn't work that way. Everybody knows that. All right. So now here's a little bit more. This is Mike Johnson now this morning on MSNBC. By the way, Speaker Johnson, I like you and you're good. I appreciate it. Why are you spending all your time going on these liberal places? Why you need to do media like this? You need Speaker Johnson's office. I know you're there. I'll give him a one-on-one for half an hour, and he won't get interrupted. And you can actually explain this coherently to our audience. Why are you trying to reach the Morning Joe audience? All right, here he is.
Program work better for the people who depend upon it.
They also say millions of Americans will lose access to Medicaid because of that. But I want to stay focused.
Not Americans, illegal aliens and
I think we both know that that's a misleading point here, because this is talking about people with legal status, not people who are here illegally.
Not true. Remember that under the 4 years of the Biden administration, when they opened the border wide and we had about 20 million illegal aliens come into the country, they just granted a asylum and parole status.
I recognize what you're saying, but it's people who were granted asylum or parole, and so they were working through the process legally. But I want to get you on.
We can debate that at length. Yeah,
we could debate it at length, and if you want to stick around, I'm more than happy to do it.
I wish I could.
But you've invoked the president a few times now. He looms.
No. Wait a minute. What is this? We could debate this at length. You're a news anchor. You're interviewing him, not debating him. But she's more than we could debate this. Debate? Is that your job, honey? I don't think so. Not last time I checked. Is this NBC News or is it NBC Debate Club? But watch what she did here. Boy, is this a pet peeve of mine, and I bet it is with you too. With these talking head teleprompter readers who look great on camera, but they act so deceitful and despicable when they're dealing with a conservative or a Republican. Watch this, and you tell me if you hate it as much as I do.
The program work better for the people who depend upon it.
They also say millions of Americans will lose access to Medicaid because of that. But I want to stay focused.
Right there. Yeah, they say that millions of Americans will lose access to health care. Now, I want to move on to another topic. She She wants to throw that last word in there to make it sound like Mike Johnson is lying, number one, and then deliver the Democrats' talking point, number two, and then number three, pivot to the new topic so that he doesn't have time to respond. And thankfully, he jumped in. All right, and then they have this little mini debate where he says, well, not Americans' healthcare. We're talking about illegal immigrants. She says, oh, but it's people with temporary protective status and parole. Okay, so what happened was Biden lets 20 million people into the country. And then he expands the parole provisions to like 30,000 a month. That basically, oh, you came into the country illegally, but we're just going to wave a magic wand and use parole to the tune of about 30,000 a month. And that'll give you temporary legal status. And then if you're coming from Haiti or from Venezuela, you know, the Trinidad gang members, or from other countries that we decide deserve temporary protective status, even though you came to the country illegally, because you came from those countries, we're going to give you temporary protective status, okay? And Biden just did that. He did that unilaterally, and suddenly these people who entered the country illegally and were living in the country illegally and working in the country illegally were now suddenly under some quasi-temporary legal status. Trump goes in there, reverses it. So yeah, maybe they got TPS, maybe they got parole when Biden was there, but we had an election about that, ma'am. And Trump came in and did exactly what he said he was going to do when he won. He revoked that. So they're back to being in the country illegally. That's why they're being rounded up and deported right now. Explain to me how that, if they're getting health care, if they're getting medical care and provisions from the federal government, explain to me how that isn't an illegal immigrant getting health care coverage. And you can't, because it is. And this is what the media is doing on this story. Okay. On Thursday, J.D. Vance became the spokesperson for the Republicans during the shutdown and for the Trump administration's position. He started the day on Fox and Friends, and he was, well, typically brilliant.
This is a Democrat talking point. They say we're not actually trying to give health care benefits to illegal aliens, and here's why it's not true. There are two Biden-era programs that explicitly gave the taxpayer health care money to illegal aliens that we turned off when President Trump took over in January. Program number one is there's a lot of emergency health care at hospitals that are provided to illegal aliens. That was funded by the federal government. We turned off that funding because, of course, we want American citizens to benefit from those hospital services, not to be taxed and then to have those hospital services go to illegal aliens. The second of which is the Biden administration gave mass parole to millions upon millions of illegal aliens, and then they simultaneously made those parolees eligible for health care benefits funded by taxpayers. In the One Big Beautiful Bill, President Trump and congressional Republicans turned off that money to health care funding for illegal aliens. The Democrats want to turn it back on. And in their initial proposal, the first thing that they put out to reopen the government, they actually turned that money for health care benefits for illegal aliens back on. So it's not something that we made up. It's not a talking point. It is in the text of the bill that they initially gave to us to reopen the government. It's preposterous for them to run away from it now. But look, let's set that all to the side. Let's open up the government. Let's negotiate on all of these healthcare policy issues. Obviously, we're not going to support healthcare benefits for illegal aliens, but we will work with them to lower healthcare costs for American citizens if they're willing to do so.
That's right. Because one of the big things outside of the money for illegal immigrants is this whole issue with Affordable Care Act, which was never affordable in the first place. Obamacare, the rates are going up, and federal government subsidies have been implemented during COVID-19, during the pandemic, to artificially reduce the sting on those Americans who are getting Obamacare for part of their health care coverage, because you liked your insurance, but you lost your insurance because Obama lied to you, because you liked your doctor, but then you lost your doctor because Obama lied to you. Also, Obama told you that your health care costs were going to go down by about $2,000 or $3,000 a year as soon as you pass the Affordable Care Act. And that never happened. In fact, they've now over doubled because Obama lied to you. And now the only solution the Democrats have is, well, we need more government control of health insurance, because so far everything's worked. It's like when they say Marxism hasn't really been tried properly yet, but as soon as we do, it'll be fine. Oh, really? Because in Canada, they've tried this whole nationalized health service. Ask them how long it takes them to get an MRI. They'll win a Stanley Cup up there sooner than you get an MRI. All right. Later in the day on Thursday, Vance then took the podium at the briefing room, and he was on fire explaining exactly what the hell this shutdown's all about and how Democrats are lying to you.
Afternoon to everybody who's watching at home. It's a tough act to follow, but let me just say a few things, then I'll take a few questions. Number one, Democrats say that they care a lot about lowering healthcare costs. And yet, when the president took historic action to work with the drug companies to lower prescription drug prices, the Democrats did nothing to help us. In fact, we would have loved to have the Democrats helping us, but they didn't. They talk about doing something. They don't actually do the hard work of making it happen. What they have done instead is to shut down the government because we won't give billions of dollars to healthcare funding for illegal aliens. That is what has actually happened. To the American people who are watching, the reason your government is shut down at this very minute is because, despite the fact that the overwhelming majority of congressional Republicans and even a few moderate Democrats supported opening the government, the Chuck Schumer AOC wing of the Democratic Party shut down the government because they said to us, we will open the government, but only if you give billions of dollars of funding for health care for illegal aliens. That's a ridiculous proposition. Let me say two other quick.
All right. And that was the preface before I started taking questions. California, Michigan, Oregon, Washington, Illinois, New York, handful of other states, all run by Democrats, have all beaten the drum and patted themselves on the back and preened and sanctimoniously stood on their big pedestal, looking down on the rest of you, saying, look at our state. We've provided health care for illegal immigrants here because we welcome them like the Statue of Liberty with open arms, and we've caressed them and embraced them because we love them and we want them here because they're the most important part of our economy, these illegal immigrants. And within 2 or 3 years, the state Medicaid system turned upside down, absolutely destroyed. Now, the Biden administration and the Democrats tried to bail them out as much as they could under the guise of COVID-19 pandemic provisions, but all that money pretty much just propped up the state systems. It's gotten so bad in those states now that Newsom's now had to roll back his health care for illegal immigrants. But you cannot tell me that these states aren't providing health care, doctor's visits, x-rays, whatever you want for illegal immigrants in their states, because we've got them on record giving the speech bragging about how they did it. And of course, they've now been demanding more federal money from Washington, D.C., because they're losing money in their state Medicaid funds. So you've got a Democrat in Washington saying, well, yeah, we need to give more money to the states here, but just so you know, we're not spending any money on illegal immigrants' health care. That would be wrong, and that would be against the law. But instead, they're playing this shell game where they let Gavin Newsom go out there and provide all the health insurance under state Medicaid. I mean, here's the problem. There is no such thing as a federal Washington, D.C. healthcare plan. It's all done by the states. So they can sit there and let Gavin Newsom give health insurance to illegal immigrants. And then the Democrats just write this big old fat check of money that isn't theirs to go pay for it. So taxpayers in Oklahoma and Montana who do it right are subsidizing what California is doing. And then they can say, we're not providing health care, Gavin Newsom is. We're just paying for it. So now here's Gavin Newsom on his podcast because it's boring being the governor of California. And everything's so great in California that he's got a lot of extra time on his hands. So he's supposed to get credit for bringing in Michael Savage, longtime legendary talk show host, who's in his late 70s and appears to be, I think, the dwarf from Fellowship of the Ring. I could be wrong about that. They're really more sprinters than distance runners. I hope you didn't miss that. He's supposed to get credit for bringing Michael Savage in, a San Francisco-based conservative talk show host, and say, look at me, I'm Gavin Newsom. I can mix it up with the right-wingers, right? And the subject of health insurance, health care for illegal immigrants came up.
I have to wait to get into an emergency room when I pay more taxes than any 10,000 of them do.
You know what? That's why we do preventative care. That's why we have a different approach, because we have sick care in the emergency room that's universal all across this country.
Well, I totally.
People have access all across the country for similar circumstances. You are. at substantially higher prices on the back end for the emergency care.
See, this is where we disagree, because you can't give first world excellent medical care to everyone on the planet
But Michael,
without going bankrupt.
No, I appreciate it, but honestly, I mean this sincerely. What would you do to the person that was just hit by a car, that was here for 15 years taking care of your elderly grandparents in an elder care facility, and they end up in the emergency room? You say, no, you're not going to get that care.
Of course you're going to give them care. First of all, it's not only inhumane, but it's available to them. But that's not what we're talking about. Yeah. There are people coming over the border just for expensive surgeries, just for expensive
By the way, a few years ago, I remember people going south of the border into Tijuana from San Diego because it was cheaper to get some quality care in Mexico.
Those days are over.
Okay, so I want to show this to you again because I've been telling you for over a year now to be terrified of Gavin Newsom, because Governor Hairgel has an innate ability to lie and to deceive and to manipulate, and to do it with a smile on his face and make you feel like you should be grateful that he's lying so expertly at you. It's Bill Clinton-esque here. All right. And I apologize. I mean, listen, Michael Savage is a legend. I'm not one to criticize him. He's, I was about to say he's a great guy, but that's, I don't think is necessarily the truth. I know people who have worked with him in the past. But the point is, if you're not willing to go in there and be ready for this kind of bullshit from Gavin Newsom, don't show up, because all you're doing is helping him and serving him. Okay. So let me break this down for you, what you just saw.
You have to wait to get into an emergency room when I pay more taxes than any 10,000 of them do.
You know what? That's why we do preventative care. That's
okay. So let me just pause there for a minute. Oh yeah, sure, you're right. They shouldn't be in the emergency room. That's why we're doing preventative care, right? Preventative care. I just want you to know, the United States citizens in the state of California don't get the level of health insurance and health care and this preventative care for free that Gavin Newsom is providing citizens of Guatemala and Honduras who come across the country illegally. All right. Preventative care. Are you kidding me? I mean, you can get preventative care in California. You're going to pay for it from Kaiser Permanente or Anthem Blue Shield, right? But so Gavin Newsom is, well, yes, we're going to give preventative care, and we're going to make sure they get chiropractor visits and physical therapy, and we're going to align their chakras by burning incense so that they can meditate, because a lot of stress in their life, always looking over their shoulders of being deported. We need to help them out. That's not good. That'll cause, headaches and migraines. Okay, so now we're supposed to be grateful that he's providing preventative care. That'll keep him out of the emergency room, which, by the way, ain't working if you haven't been to an emergency room lately. But then Michael Savage walks into this trap.
That's why we have a different approach, because we have sick care in the emergency room that's universal across this country.
Well,
people have access all across the country for similar circumstances. You are at substantially higher prices on the back end for the emergency care.
See, this is where we disagree, because you can't give first world excellent medical care to everyone on the planet without going bankrupt.
No, I appreciate it, but honestly, I mean this sincerely. What would you do to the person that was just hit by a car, that was here for 15 years?
Look at the slimy, slithery, snake-like serpentine manipulation right there. Did you notice what happened? So the first complaint is emergency rooms are full of people, with sneezes and cold and flus. And I've got an actual emergency and I'm waiting 3.5 hours because they're so backlogged. And Gavin Newsom says, yes, that's why we give preventative care, and we make sure that they get preventative care because I use hand gestures when I talk to distract you from the lies I'm telling. So they're spending a ton of money on preventative care. And then when Savage presses the issue a little bit further, what does Newsom immediately do? Well, they got hit by a car. This person got hit by a car. What would you do when they get hit by a car? I'm sorry, excuse me. I thought we were talking about preventative care. And now immediately we go to the person who gets hit by a car. And if you don't want that person who got hit by a car to get emergency room care, you're Satan. Which, of course, everybody's going to say, well, yeah, obviously, if somebody gets hit by a car. But guess what? That could be a tourist who's here visiting Disneyland in Anaheim, who's here on a tourist visa, and they get hit by a car. And, of course, they're going to be taken care of. But see, that's not the situation here. That person who got hit by a car, as Gavin Newsom says it, was here for 15 years taking care of your grandmother. All right, let me tell you something. The reason they got here 15 years ago is because people like Gavin Newsom promised them free education, free food, free shelter, free housing, and free health care. It's called a magnet that draws people here. And now I'm supposed to feel guilty about the fact that they've set up a benefit program to draw people here illegally, take jobs away. Guess what? I know plenty of American people who would have loved to have that job taking care of elderly people for the last 15 years. But instead of getting paid a good wage, a good American wage, instead the hospital or the daycare center or the nursing home is exploiting third world labor and paying them dirt cheap, which drags the quality down as well, by the way. And then, oh, they got hit by a car. You see how he does this? God, conservatives, if you're not ready to actually engage and debate this person and treat him with the contempt he deserves, please stop going on his podcast. This man is running for president in 2028, and he can lie better than anyone I've ever seen in my life. All right. Real fast, one other thing on this that I just wanted to share with you. Today, the Washington Post, writing an op-ed about the government shutdown and specifically about the health insurance costs, the premiums, illegal immigrants, et cetera, et cetera. I want to draw your attention to this line right here. The real problem is that the Affordable Care Act was never actually affordable. It's 2025. This thing passed in 2010. We were all saying it at the time. Ted Cruz, by the way, got criticized by the Washington Post for engaging in his own government shutdown, leading Republicans in trying to keep Obamacare from being implemented because he knew that A, you would lose your doctor because Obama lied, you would lose your insurance because Obama lied, and oh, by the way, it would make everything more expensive. We were right all along about this, and now here we are in 2025, and the Washington Post, sheepishly buried in the fourth paragraph of an op-ed, says, yeah, see, the problem is the Affordable Care Act was never really affordable. Never really solved the problem. Gee. But the way to fix it is to give the same people who celebrated it, you know, Nancy Pelosi and Bernie Sanders and Chuck Schumer and Elizabeth Warren, give them more power, give them more money, and give them more control over health insurance, because that'll solve the problem. And CNN will just cut away when the Speaker of the House of Representatives is trying to explain the details and facts to their audience. I don't know how this government shutdown thing is going to end. I think it will by the end of the week. And probably Republicans are going to have to acquiesce and give them something, sadly, until they start to feel some pain. And right now, the Democrats, they're getting away with it. They just are. What's happening in Chicago right now can only be described as an armed insurrection. ICE agents over the weekend conducting normal federal law enforcement practices to find criminal illegal aliens, arrest them, and line them up for deportation were met by an armed mob who rammed their vehicle. One armed woman engaged in a violent attack on the ICE agents, and the ICE agent had to shoot her. Then one of the ICE agents called Chicago police for assistance. You are not going to believe what happened next. Let's start at the beginning. Here's how Fox News covered the story.
In Chicago, sources telling Fox News police there were told to actually stand down on helping ICE agents who are in danger. Mike Tobin has this story for us, all the details. Hi, Mike.
And Dana, we've got a lot of rank and file Chicago police officers behind the scenes telling us that they are outraged that the stand down order went out to them after federal agents were attacked. The order appears to have come through a communication from the chief of patrol over the communication through the Office of Emergency Management and Communication, reading, "No units will respond to this." Multiple police sources have confirmed to us the message is authentic, and it is backed up by audio of the stand down order.
And again, per the chief of patrol, we have all the units that per 999, chief of patrol said all units clear out from there. We're not sending anybody over to that location. All right, and 999, just to confirm, 39th Police in Kedzie, they were saying that they were being surrounded by that large crowd, and they were requesting the police were not sending. I'm waving off all the cars heading to 39th Police in Kedzie.
And those are the orders we're being given.
This is outrageous. This is an armed insurrection in a major city in America, and the Democrat-led politicians that run that city and run that state directed the police department to stand down and let law enforcement fend for themselves. And let me just be clear here, because I don't know if you saw the details on this. This is a screenshot. You heard the audio of the thing, but take a look. Now, start at the bottom here, because this is like this isn't a police patrol car where you see the dispatch announcements scrolling up, and it's in red. That means it's important. Look at the bottom. Right here, 4 October 2025. I'm pointing at my screen instead of using my pointer here. You can see it now. My cursor's on it. At 12:28 p.m. Caller is one of approximately 30 armed Border Patrol agents, ICE, who are being surrounded by a large crowd of people requesting Chicago Police Department. 30 armed ICE agents surrounded. There's already been a shot fired. The woman who was shot, who was an armed Antifa-type insurrectionist, they had rammed into the ICE vehicle and surrounded their vehicle, impeding federal law enforcement officers from doing their job. She's shot. She drives herself to the hospital. And now, you know, the ICE agents, they don't want to escalate this. So it's like, all right, get CPD in here. And Chicago police, they'll calm things down. That's at 12:28. 6 minutes later, it took 6 minutes. So you know that people were like calling up the chain of command because there was some kind of hold order. If there's any request for participation with ICE agents, you wait for approval. Here's the message. Please, Chief of Patrol, no unit will respond to this. The cops were told to stand down. Their federal law enforcement brothers and sisters, men and women in blue, wearing the badge, were being attacked. They asked for help, and Chicago police said, nope, can't do it, hands off. By the way, the reason we know about this, the reason we got that screenshot, is because there were cops in Chicago who were fed up. They said, I can't believe they leaked this anonymously to Fox News because they're disgraced. They're disgusted by their leadership, Democrat leadership in Chicago. They would rather have law enforcement officials either be harmed or killed, or, frankly, let's be clear on what would happen here. You have all these Antifa, mob, anti-ICE protesters who have been stirred up by the mayor there and by Governor Pritzker. They start rabble-rousing. They start engaging with ICE. They ram into their vehicle. They surround them. They impede them. You know what's going to happen. ICE is going to go in there and take care of business. And they're going to throw these dirtbags to the ground and cuff them and drag them off. And we already know some of them are armed. The Democrats in Chicago, through their police department, by calling this stand-down order, it's because they want violence. They want someone to get killed for political purposes. There's no other explanation. Here's more on the scene. Fox News reporting this morning.
Let's bring in the acting ICE director, Todd Lyons, to join us right now. Director, I mean, you get a call on the radio, 1033, an officer assist call, you show up. What do you make of not only the audio evidence, but also the real life experience of your federal agents, of them not showing up to the call?
Hey, Lawrence, yeah, it's sad because seriously, all law enforcement will respond to any other brother or sister in law enforcement that's in need. And that's what didn't happen here in Chicago. You know, you have 30 Border Patrol agents that are being swarmed, pinned in, attacked. You have a domestic terrorist that was doxing agents and officers. She has a firearm in the vehicle. They have to return fire. Yet the officers of Chicago PD are told to stand down. It just shows where we're at right now with the sad state of law enforcement going on in Illinois, is the fact that you had other federal officers under attack. Yet, because of politics and because of the way some people feel about immigration enforcement, they did not come to the aid of federal law enforcement officers.
You also have bounties now, according to the Secretary of Homeland Security, against some of your officers as well?
We are, yeah. Can't really get into it because of criminal intelligence in some of the cases we're working, but we've seen an uptick in actual bounties, photos of agents and agency leadership as being targets of attack by gangs and cartels. It really just has to stop. And again, all the men and women of ICE are doing are going out there and enacting the laws that Congress has written. It's a law enforcement mission. We do it every day. We've been doing it for decades. Yet right now, the men and women of ICE are in the crosshairs of some of the most extreme leftist terrorists.
Yeah, and it's coming from the criminals, but it's also coming from elected officials too, with some of the rhetoric that they're putting out there. Let's play some of it from the Sunday shows. Let's watch it.
They broke windows, they broke down doors, they ransacked the place, and there were people that were held, elderly people and children zip-tied. Elderly people held for 3 hours at a time. They are the ones that are making it a war zone. They need to get out of Chicago.
If anybody is targeting anyone, it is out of control ICE agents targeting, again, zip-tying children, throwing reporters onto the ground, separating children from their mothers, trying to convince schools to turn over kids from public schools. They are ranging through the streets of Chicago, trying to intimidate everyday, ordinary citizens.
So the zip ties are used for law enforcement to cuff people as well when you have a lot of folks that you're dealing with. But explain, Mr. Director, the zip tying controversy.
Well, first off, Lawrence, what was really sad is a lot of these elected officials haven't had boots on the ground. They haven't seen what the men and women of ICE are going through. Secretary Noem went, put herself in harm's way to make sure the men and women were supported. And she showed what true leadership was because she got on the ground and she saw exactly what's going on. Now, to the controversy about that raid on a seized apartment complex that TDA, Tenerife took over, right? That the city didn't take any action on. Of course, when we go to a scene, we have to secure everyone at the scene to make sure it's safe for all law enforcement. But we've seen so many AI fake photos of supposed ICE and Border Patrol agents zip tying small children. That is just not the case. What they need to do is realize that ICE isn't a masked Gestapo or the Nazis just indiscriminately rounding people up. That was a criminally based intelligence law enforcement mission that was done by the FBI, Border Patrol, and Homeland Security investigations. It was a great operation that the city of Chicago didn't take any action on that apartment complex, whether you'd had known gang members, Tenerife, which are terrorists, terrorizing that neighborhood. And we went ahead and we stepped in and we intervened. That's what people need to be focused on. They need to learn the facts and not listen to the rhetoric from the left.
Yeah, they're more.
Yeah, ICE Director Lyons is great. And by the way, for more of him, we had an exclusive interview with him one-on-one, about half an hour's worth. Whatever channel you're watching on right now or platform, go ahead and look through the videos. It was about, a month ago. I want to say first week of September. He's a great man. And of course, he's right about this. Chicago doesn't enforce any laws. It's an absolute jungle in certain portions of Chicago. There's been lawlessness. Finally, you've got law enforcement doing their job and protecting the people of Chicago. And these politicians lie about what they're doing and drum up resistance to them. Here's a perfect example. Governor Pritzker, Jabba the Hutt Pritzker, earlier this week.
ICE has been gathering its agents. It has taken them longer than I think they anticipated. And so we still, and they are active, as you have seen. They are, and we've seen a death on Friday as a result of their entering communities and putting people into fear.
Yeah, a death on Friday. And he goes further talking about that death when he was on with Fake Tapper here.
Well, we don't have a lot of facts. What happens in these sorts of incidents is typically ICE puts out a press release before anybody else can speak with the press, and then it gets reported on social media and elsewhere. Remember, these are the same folks who killed a person, unarmed person, just a couple of weeks ago in Franklin Park. At first, they said that the officer had been threatened with his life. The reality of it and the truth of it has now come out, and that wasn't the case. They killed somebody. So here it's really hard to know exactly what the facts are, and they won't let us access the facts. They are.
Yeah, it's hard to know what the facts are when he's purposely obfuscating here. Do you notice how he says the word killed instead of murdered? I mean, he makes it sound like ICE agents murdered an innocent person. But do you notice he doesn't use the word murdered? Why? Why? I mean, if what he wants you to believe is true, that ICE killed an innocent person, isn't that murder? But see, he didn't use the word murder. Do you know why? Here, take a listen again to what he says here and notice what he doesn't say.
A couple of weeks ago in Franklin Park, at first they said that the officer had been threatened with his life. The reality of it and the truth of it has now come out, and that wasn't the case. They killed somebody. So here it's really hard to know.
Okay, so now at that moment, it would have been really illustrative for the governor to say, here's what really happened. But he didn't. You see, he said, ICE originally said that the agent's life was threatened. It turns out it wasn't. Okay, so what was the truth? What really happened there? And he doesn't tell you. I'll tell you what happened. There was a man who dropped off his kids at school. There was a warrant for his arrest and deportation because he was an illegal immigrant. He saw ICE agents. He rammed the car into the agent and dragged one of them. Now, the ICE agent, thankfully, was okay. Turns out his injuries weren't that bad. But at the time, as he was being dragged by the car, you should see the car. It's like this heap of wreckage. While he was being dragged, you don't know how extensive those injuries are going to be. And yes, in the ensuing scuffle, the guy who was dragging an ICE agent was shot and killed. And I think it's fair to say when I said, well, we had an agent whose life was threatened. Now, afterwards, they found a body cam of the agent who was sort of shaking it off as it happened. He goes, no, it's okay. I'll be all right, which is what most tough guys do, even if they've been dragged in the car by a car. But this guy couldn't pass a typical physical test for law enforcement, let alone have the courage and wherewithal and wits to put on a uniform, wear a badge, and actually patrol one of the neighborhoods of his godforsaken city. So for him to second guess ICE law enforcement, who has an agent is being dragged in a car by a suspect who is supposed to be pulled over and arrested and comply so he can be deported, in the heat of the moment, guess what cops do? They neutralize the threat. But he left all of that out of his explanation, didn't he? One other thing about Chicago and the illegal immigrants who were there, they want to talk about this one guy who got killed, and they claim that he shouldn't have been killed, even though I just laid out the details as to the circumstances on why the ICE agents acted the way that they did. The Chicago police refuses to go and help the law enforcement ICE officers as they're being surrounded this weekend, and they were told to stand down. They're telling you that ICE is in their city going after innocent people. They're in the city terrorizing neighborhoods, right? But there's some stories that they're not telling you about the people ICE is capturing. Here's one of them. Here's one of the people that Jabba the Hutt Pritzker won't talk to Jake Tapper about. And strangely, Jake Tapper never raised this issue. Hey, take a look at this story out of Chicago involving ICE.
ICE has detained the man charged in connection with the death of a missing Antioch woman. The Department of Homeland Security says agents arrested Jose Luis Mendoza Gonzalez yesterday afternoon at a market in Chicago, and he remains in ICE custody. They say he is an undocumented immigrant from Mexico. Now, you remember back in April, Mendoza Gonzalez was charged with concealing a corpse, abusing a corpse, and obstruction of justice in the death of Megan Boss. Police in Waukegan found Boss's body in a container in Mendoza Gonzalez's yard. She'd initially been reported missing back in March.
Yeah, she was murdered and she was decapitated. And he kept the body in a container and continually abused the corpse. So Jake Tapper's got Jabba the Hutt Pritzker on there, condemning ICE and making ICE the bad guys and the villain in this whole thing, claiming, yeah, and they even killed an innocent, unarmed man a couple of weeks ago. And Jake Tapper didn't have the facts, so he couldn't say, well, isn't that a man who dragged an ICE officer with his vehicle after ramming them to avoid arrest? No, Jake missed that opportunity. But he also could have had his crack research staff of producers say, I understand what you're saying, Governor Pritzker, but isn't it also true that ICE found and apprehended the man who was in the country illegally, that murdered the young woman, decapitated her, and then abused her corpse for weeks on end? And your cops couldn't find him, but ICE did. Aren't you grateful ICE has done that? That didn't make it into the interview either. It's almost like Jake Tapper isn't on the side of the truth and facts and actually illuminating the issue for his audience. He's just trying to help Democrats. Meanwhile, ICE is very angry at the Cato Institute. Cato is a libertarian think tank in Washington, D.C. Over the past several years, though, they've gone over the edge, especially when it comes to open borders. See, Cato thinks that to be a real libertarian, a nation shouldn't protect their borders. Make that make sense. David Beer at Cato put out this tweet saying, ICE lied about the person it shot, claiming he was a criminal, but NBC finds that he had no criminal history whatsoever, not even traffic tickets in 12 years. It also lied about the extent of his injuries to its agents. That, as you can see, has 5.3 million views. It's also a fraud. ICE responded and said false accusations like this viral post from David Beer and Cato Institute have led to daily assaults on the men and women of ICE and dangerous riots. ICE officers conducted a vehicle stop September 12th to arrest Silverio Villegas Gonzalez, a criminal illegal alien arrested in Chicago several years ago for reckless driving, assault, speeding, driving without a license or insurance, who pleaded guilty to 4 traffic violations. He attempted to flee his ICE arrest, endangering 2 officers, dragging one a significant distance, which caused the officer to fear for his own life and fire his weapon in self-defense. But Cato, the really smart, above it all libertarian think tank, they said that he'd had no criminal history whatsoever, not even traffic tickets in 12 years, exclamation point. Whose side are these people on? Well, if you listen to the mayor of Chicago, the answer is clear. This is an armed insurrection going on right now that transpired over the weekend. And Democrats are on the side of the insurrectionists.
Today, we are signing an executive order aimed at reining in this out-of-control administration. The order establishes ICE-free zones. That means that city property and unwilling private businesses will no longer serve as staging grounds for these raids.
There you go. ICE-free zones, because being a sanctuary city isn't enough. Now we're going to have ICE-free zones. So they found the real enemy. It's amazing. If you could do that, I've got an idea, Mr. Mayor. Hear me out. How about making the south side of Chicago a gang-free zone? I'm sure it'll work. No, but he knows who the real enemy is. By the way, I heard ICE-free zone, and I immediately thought every pub in England. You can't get any ice in your drinks over there. You got to go out of your way and ask for it. I'd like a Coke. With ice. A lot of ice, not just 1 cube. What's with you, Brits? The mayor continued.
I said very candidly that the right wing in this country wants a rematch of the Civil War. I want that to sit in right now, because the president of the United States of America has declared war on the people of Chicago and people across America. That's right. He's more interested in giving billions of dollars to other nations, while farmers in urban cities around this country are literally being destabilized. And so whether it's the legal system, whether it's through executive order, or whether it's through the brave women and men who are serving as rapid responders. We literally have people who are volunteering in this city, on the southwest side, the northwest side, all over this city, to make sure that we're protecting children from being separated from their families. And we're talking about volunteers who are literally putting themselves at risk of being shot and killed by the federal government. And so whether it's the legal system, whether it's our continuous struggle for liberation through organizing, and whether it's through executive action or whether it's through law, it would be nice if we actually had lawmakers in Washington that would actually hold this president accountable. And if they won't do it, then the city of Chicago will, using every single tool that's available to us.
Yeah, that's the insurrection talk. He's talking about civil war. He is literally delivering the message of civil war, because I hate to break it to you, Mayor, but the president of the United States doesn't engage in a civil war against a city, because he is, in fact, the federal government. He was duly elected constitutionally to be the president of the United States and to manage the executive branch of government, including federal law enforcement when it comes to immigration. He's doing his constitutional duty. And at every turn, the courts have continued to affirm his constitutional right and responsibility legally to do exactly what he's doing. And unlike his predecessor, Joe Biden, if in fact a court stops them or, prohibits the Trump administration from moving forward in the way that they want, he has respected every single court decision, even those that he disagreed with. Again, unlike Joe Biden, who bragged about defying court decisions. So a president and a duly elected majority in the House of Representatives and the Senate, they don't engage in civil war. It's insurrectionists like you and your gangs of volunteers in the streets of Chicago. You're the ones engaging in a civil war. And by the way, all those volunteers who were trying to protect children and protect criminals from being apprehended and deported, per federal law, all those volunteers you've got out there trying to protect them, where were those volunteers trying to protect children who were murdered in gang warfare in South Chicago? Where was your concern over the up-teen murders that you have presided over in your city? You only get riled up and try to protect the people from Chicago and rally volunteers to go out on the streets and try to protect children because it's Trump and ICE enforcing the law? There's something broken in the city of Chicago right now. And I'm glad he mentioned lawmakers. If only we had some lawmakers who could hold the president accountable. It's funny, Mr. Mayor, the lawmakers have done their job. Over the course of the last several years and decades, multiple laws have been passed. They've been debated in the House of Representatives. They have been voted on. They've been moved over to the Senate, and the Senate debated it and voted on it too. Remember Schoolhouse Rock, Mr. Mayor? You probably don't. Then that bill went to the White House, and whoever the president was, whether it was the first George Bush or Bill Clinton or the second George Bush or Barack Obama, those bills were signed into law. And those laws were about illegal immigration in this country and about the disposition of people in the country illegally who have broken our laws, our immigration laws, our visa laws, our work laws, our identity theft laws, because people who are working here, who aren't here legally, they got a driver's license somewhere, they got a passport somewhere, and it ain't theirs. And then, of course, you've got all of the other laws that illegal immigrants who are being arrested and deported right now have broken, from drunk driving to possession of narcotics to possession of firearms, and on and on and on. But you see, Mr. Mayor, lawmakers over the years and decades have passed those laws about immigration. And all those laws have penalties. If, in fact, you break this law, then this is the penalty. And the penalty involves federal law enforcement arresting people and deporting them. In other words, the president is following the law. You may not like those laws, but they're the law. And if you don't like them, well, then you can certainly tell your members of the House of Representatives to go to Washington, D.C. and pass new laws that make it perfectly fine for someone to enter the country illegally. Go ahead. Do that. You see, the dirty little secret, Mr. Mayor, and every other Democrat screaming about ICE right now, from Gavin Newsom to Gretchen Whitmer to Kathy Hochul to Wes Moore to Kamala Harris to Nancy Pelosi to Chuck Schumer to Hakeem Jeffries and all the rest. The dirty little secret here is that all the Democrats love going to Washington, D.C. And by the way, a good portion of Republicans up until recently, they love going to Washington, D.C. and thumping their chest and giving speeches and passing laws and celebrating the fact that they've gotten tough on immigration and they've gotten tough on the border. You see all those speeches of Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton and Barack Obama and Joe Biden over the years saying, we got to do something about these illegal immigrants. We've got to pass a law and we've got to secure the border and we've got to deport people in this country illegally. They shouldn't be here. And they pass those laws. And then they just sit back acting like they've done something. But they didn't do anything. Until those laws are enforced, until a president running the executive branch and empowering the law enforcement mechanisms within the executive branch to actually enforce those laws and mete out the penalties against those people who have broken those laws, then the laws are meaningless. They don't matter. Now you've got a president doing that. And all those people who gave those speeches and signed those laws and voted on those laws and felt so good about themselves for getting credit for going on George Stephanopoulos' show and saying, yes, I'm very tough on immigration. We got to secure that border. Absolutely. They all knew for years, for decades, they knew that those laws would never be enforced. And now suddenly they're screaming, what? ICE is terrible. ICE is the Gestapo. ICE is fascist. This is outrageous. ICE only exists because all those politicians created ICE. ICE is only able to enforce the laws because all those politicians passed those laws and wrote in the laws that if you break the law, you're going to get arrested by ICE and you're going to get deported. That's the reality we're living in right now. And it's Democrats like Jabba the Hutt Pritzker and this Mayor Johnson and all these other hypocrites, Gavin Newsom, Whitmer, all the ones I named. They're the ones who are using this rhetoric and inspiring people to go and be human shields and stand in the way of armed law enforcement agents who are doing their solemn, constitutionally protected duty, enforcing the laws that these very same Democrats pretended like they supported. And then when those cops are under fire and they need help, they tell the Chicago Police Department to stand down because they want violence in the streets. They want somebody dead. There's no happy ending to this. None at all. All right, my friends, thank you for... Oh, we went long today, didn't we? I'm sorry, Kevin. I had a lot on my mind. That was too much talking. I apologize. Did I talk too much today?
Absolutely not, man. We had a couple days off, so it's good.
Exactly. We were off for a few days, so I had a lot to get off my chest. Oh, let's get Cindy Sanchez on here real fast because I like that. You bet your bottom we are, Cindy Sanchez. I'm going to give you that one for free because it's not a super chat, but I like it. God bless you, Cindy. All right, but it is time for your super chats. Let's get to it. Hey, Larry Rosario Cicero with a $4.99 super chat. Hey, Larry O, how's this for a brainstorm to celebrate your 1 millionth? Oh, God. That'll be amazing. 1 million subscriber. You should interview the ghost of William F. Buckley. Well, yeah, but who would play Buckley? That would be kind of cool. Could we do that with AI, Kevin?
Probably. The real question is, should we?
That's probably what. Didn't Jim Acosta interview some dead kid from a school shooting?
Yeah,
yeah, maybe not. Maybe for the 1 million subscriber, we should get somebody from the White House. But we've got a long way to go for that. We're at 6:33 right now on YouTube. But Rosario, we will put it in the hopper. Susan Shellett with €2. Hey, Susan, we haven't seen you in a while. Left policy when caught, deflect, reflect. Yeah, that's what we're seeing play out in Virginia. That's such a crazy story right now. Colleen Daly with a $5 tip jar for the Piano Man. Thank you for that, Colleen. Elliot Berry with a $10 super chat. Now, Larry, now may be a good time to remind people to never go with the knockoff. Always choose Chicago's original board up services. And have you heard about how their stock is doing? Dude, Did that happen? Now my brain is mush right now, but did that happen on this show, the Chicago Board of Services, or was that something that we did on another show, Kevin?
I don't think we did it here, Larry.
Do you remember what we're talking about here?
Vaguely.
There's a Chicago literally has a company that they'll come and they'll board up your business to protect the windows for the riots. And it like from George Floyd on, they've been like, one of the fastest growing entrepreneurs in Chicago. And I know I did a segment on it, but it might have been on my old Salem News Channel show. Elliot, thank you for that reminder. Yes. Susan Shellett with a €2 super chat. Nazi stands for National Socialists. Yes, that's correct. And if I remember it, Susan's in the Netherlands. So you know plenty about what the Nazis really were. Thank you. Ball State alum. Hey, Jeff, with a $10 super chat regarding the Washington Post quote, what do you expect from a pig but a grunt? Yes, and the Affordable Care Act. Exactly. We shouldn't be surprised, but, thank you, Jeff. Appreciate that. Stumble Boots with a $5 super chat. You're cool, Clippy. I appreciate that. Thank you. I love that that's the same comment every time. God's best friend with £2. Gaza has just been declared a hostage-free zone. Oh, did they agree? Did that happen during the show, Kevin?
I didn't see anything actually, but
I know that there's a summit going on right now in Egypt somewhere. That's great news, God's best friend, if that's the case. Tomorrow is the 2-year anniversary of the October 7th atrocities, as you know, and that would be a beautiful thing to see. Finally, have those remaining hostages freed and the remains of hostages returned to their loved ones. We can only pray. Is that it?
That's it. Thanks for tuning in, everyone.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Even Kevin thanks you, by the way. And thank you for, by the way, a lot of people reached out. I got a lot of DMs on X saying, are you okay, Larry? You haven't been, because we took Wednesday, Thursday, Friday off. And the fact is, our show, as exciting and fun and wonderful, and I think pretty great, if I may say so, as great as it is, you're looking at the show right now. It's me and Kevin. It's just, I know everybody thinks that there's like this big, and other shows do have pretty big staffs, right? And by the way, I don't mean to, we've got a huge, great, wonderful infrastructure at Town Hall Media, and they do a lot of great work supporting what we do. But really, when the chips are down, it's me and it's Kevin. And at various times, one of us is either sick or needs days off for personal reasons or has vacation. And when that happens, there's no show. That's just the reality. Is it? Do you mind me saying that, Kevin? Or am I making us sound too small town here?
No, I don't mind at all. But I love how this is just a roundabout way of you saying Kevin was goofing off on vacation for a couple days.
I did not say that. They don't know if it was you or if it was me, although I was on the radio and busy working, and you were goofing off. Where were you goofing off, by the way? I haven't heard anything about this vacation.
I was in the mountains in Montana. It was amazing.
Nice. Look at you. We're paying you way too much. It's impressive.
Saw lots of buffalo.
Did you just hear somebody agree in like 2 offices down from you when I said
No.
too much? Did you just hear through the walls? That's right.
No.
No, we can't get paid nearly enough. That's why we need to keep the super chats coming, and I appreciate those. That's the Big Mac Fund for Kevin, because that's his name around the office, Big Mac. It's not, but it should be. Can we start calling you Big Mac?
That went around when I was about 7 years old.
Yeah. All right. Do we have anything else? That's actually the reason I was explaining why we missed a few shows is because buckle up and be prepared, because the holidays are coming up and we do have some vacations coming forward. So we're gonna see you through probably until right before Thanksgiving, but then we're gonna have some more days off. Bear with us. We're not going anywhere. Things are great with the show right now, and we will be back. But I appreciate you jumping on the show today after a few days off, and we'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. In the meantime, my name is Larry O'Connor, and you can call me Larry.